I think I wanted to get into something where I could affect change. I'd been working in hospitality in high school, towards the end of high school, and I enjoyed that job, but it was the same thing day in, day out, and you would complete your shift, you'd go home, you'd come back, and it would be exactly the same thing, and there was no long-term outcomes. And I realised that I wanted something where I could go to work, affect change, and create a bit of a legacy and try and assist people in their lives, but also just have a long-term outcomes to what I was doing day to day. The culture at law school in the early 2000s was really fantastic actually. Where the moot court is now on the ground floor, that was a communal area and there was seating there, and it was terrible 1960s decor, but it was our little area, and so there would be people just milling around there all the time, and back in those days you had to go and submit your assignments in person in the little pigeon box just in that area, and so that was a real community gathering point, particularly after having pulled all-nighters and going to uni at 8 o'clock in the morning and seeing everyone else with their bleary eyes. It was a great community. I think when I was at law school, the LGBTI community was viewed fairly positively. In the early 2000s, I guess the queer culture was becoming quite mainstream, and you had things like Queer Eye for the Straight Guy and those TV shows that really promoted this view of queer people being really progressive, fun, exciting, that sort of thing. And I think that we benefited from that in those days. For me, uni was a real eye-opening experience. I came out in the first year of uni, and I was 18. I'd left home, starting new studies, and I was just able to, I guess, find myself in circumstances where you don't have those opportunities at high school. So when I started, I became involved in the gay club at uni and ended up running it. And I really found that uni was just a very liberating experience. I did things like bleach my hair, had an earring in for a while, and just really found myself during those years. I think that the law school was a pretty supportive environment, and there was that community feel amongst law students, and people did know each other, and I don't think that there was really too many problems with the queer community in law school in those years. So when I finished uni, I did a clerkship at Tyndall Gas Bentley Lawyers, and I'm still here, 11 years later. So I came out at uni, and towards the end of uni, and I still had the bleached hair and the ear piercing, I realised that to come into the profession, I had to probably conform a little bit more, and so I brought my hair back to natural colour, and I took the earring out and bought myself a suit. And when I started working, I wasn't out, but I wasn't hiding it either. It was just for the first year or so, I was just silent on the issue. I didn't tell anyone that I was gay, but equally, if someone had asked me, I would have said there was no issue there. But I found that I was a bit reserved in my dealings with people in the firm, and clients and business contacts and other people in the profession. So after about a year or so, I realised that this wasn't the way to live, and that's when I came out in the firm. I guess I just didn't know what to expect. I didn't realise at the time how many gay people there are in the legal profession. There's quite a few in Adelaide, but I think that I just didn't really realise that, and so I was just a bit nervous. And at that stage, there was no other queer identifying staff members in the firm, which is certainly changed now. And so I guess I was just unsure of what the future would hold, but those fears were very misplaced because there was absolutely no issue at all. When I came out in the profession, I don't think that I experience any difficulties. I think that the difficulties were probably internal, to be honest. I hesitated in coming out in the profession because I thought there might be an issue. When I told the people in the firm and realised that there was no issue, I realised I'd been beating myself up over it, and there was no point in that. And I'm happy to say that since I've done that, I can't think of an example where I've had an issue with anyone in the profession or any clients or anything like that. It's a very supportive profession. These days, there's no issue at all. So I wouldn't say I specifically need support, but equally, I think that I try and encourage people that work with me now who are gay. I try and encourage them. So I think since I was at uni, what I've noticed is that equality, or at least equality movement, has in some respects gone from a top-down approach to a community-based approach. And what I mean by that is in the early 2000s, the equal opportunity legislation had been in existence for 15, 20 years. And I think at the time it was, the feeling was that it was government saying this is the way it should work. Employers shouldn't discriminate because that's wrong from a government policy point of view. But I would say now that the equality movement has moved on from that, and it's not government saying this is the way it should happen, it's actually the community saying this is not how it should happen. And at the moment, as the government still hasn't introduced things like marriage equality, it's actually the community that's leaning on government to say things are behind the times as far as the law is concerned. So I think that things have definitely moved on, and the rule of law and issues like that have introduced notions of equality that didn't really exist before. At least it was a government-initiated response, whereas now it's definitely community-based. I think what I would like to have known when I was a student is the depth of the queer identifying aspects of the profession in Adelaide. I didn't really realise that, and since I've started working in the profession, I realise that there's a lot of queer people or queer-friendly people that are very happy to be contacted, to have a chat about. I think in South Australia we've got a really good tradition of having a quite collegiate profession anyway, and I think that the queer element of that just adds another dimension to things. So what I would say to students is that there's absolutely no issue at all, emailing members of the profession, getting on the phone, and really reaching out, because it is a very embracing profession, especially with the queer community in the profession.